The crystalline spires of Nova Centrum pierced the violet sky like frozen lightning, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 distant suns. Within the grand chamber of the galactic hegemony, Ambassador Regina Washington stood alone before the Council of 12, her dark skin contrasting sharply with the pristine white of her diplomatic uniform. Above her, arranged in ascending tiers, sat the most powerful beings in known space. High Chancellor Zarax, his iridescent scales shifting colors with each movement, leaned forward from his elevated position. The human delegation's petition for full membership in the hegemony has been. He paused, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among his kind. Thoroughly reviewed. Regina maintained her composure, though her hand tightened imperceptibly on the ceremonial staff of office. She knew what was coming. They all did. This was theater, nothing more. But it was theater that would change the galaxy forever. We find humanity's application lacking in every conceivable measure, Zarax continued, his voice dripping with condescension. Your species still relies on primitive quantum mechanics for computation. Your ships barely achieve Class 2 faster than light travel. And your social structures. He gestured dismissively with one of his 4 upper limbs. Well, let us simply say that you remain closer to your simian ancestors than to civilized beings. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Regina noticed that only Council member Tyrix, the silicon-based entity representing the Outer Rim worlds, remained silent. Their crystalline form sparkled with what might have been concern. In her ear, a quantum-encrypted communicator whispered, "Stay calm, Regina. Everything is proceeding as planned." The voice belonged to Commander Isabella Martinez, Director of Earth's Strategic Operations Division. Let them have their moment. Regina bowed her head in apparent submission. The Council's wisdom is, as always, beyond question, she said, her voice carrying the perfect note of resignation. Earth will, of course, accept whatever restrictions the hegemony deems appropriate. Zarax's scales shifted to a deep purple of satisfaction. The Council hereby relegates Earth to protected status level 0. All advanced technology transfers are suspended. All existing trade agreements are revoked. Your species will remain quarantined within your solar system until such time as you prove yourselves worthy of galactic society. The sentence was exactly what Earth had anticipated, what they had carefully orchestrated through years of calculated technological sandbagging and diplomatic bumbling. Regina allowed a single tear to roll down her cheek, completing the performance. Furthermore, Zarax continued, clearly savoring the moment. A hegemony peacekeeping fleet will be stationed in your system to ensure compliance. Your primitive attempts at space travel will be restricted to your own planet's orbit. In her hidden earpiece, Martinez's voice held a note of triumph. Perfect. Initiating Phase 1 of Operation Phoenix. Regina raised her eyes to meet Zarax's compound gaze. Before I accept these terms on behalf of Earth, might I share an old human saying? A small piece of wisdom from our primitive culture. Zarax waved a magnanimous limb. Speak, human. Let us hear what passes for wisdom among your kind. There's an ancient human strategist named Sun Tzu, Regina said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. He wrote, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." The confusion in the chamber was palpable. Before anyone could respond, Regina's ceremonial staff pulsed with hidden energy. Quantum fields that had been dormant for years activated simultaneously across thousands of light years. Throughout hegemony space, supposedly primitive human trading vessels transformed, revealing weapons that shouldn't exist for centuries by their calculations. Zarax's scales bleached white with shock as his personal communications array erupted with emergency signals. Regina allowed herself a small smile as she watched the mighty council scramble to understand what was happening. Humanity had spent decades playing the part of the humble supplicant, all while building an underground network that would bring the hegemony to its knees. What is the meaning of this? Zarax demanded, his composure cracking. Guards. The elite hegemony guards found their advanced weapons completely inert, disabled by quantum fields they couldn't detect, let alone understand. Regina's staff projected a holographic display showing real-time footage of human ships emerging from hidden bases throughout hegemony space. Consider this humanity's true application to the galactic community, Regina announced, her voice now carrying the full weight of Earth's authority. We didn't come here seeking permission to join your corrupt empire. We came to dismantle it. As chaos erupted in the chamber, Regina's quantum communicator hummed with Martinez's satisfied voice. Operation Phoenix is now fully operational. Let's show them what primitive humans can really do. The day of reckoning had arrived, and humanity was ready to reshape the galaxy. Commander Isabella Martinez stood at the viewing window of the Phoenix Command Center, buried 2 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean. The vast chamber hummed with activity as operators monitored quantum feeds from across the galaxy. On the main display, red dots representing hegemony strongholds were rapidly turning green as human forces revealed themselves. Status report, she commanded, turning to face Admiral Ravi Patel, her second in command. His dark eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he brought up a holographic display. Operation Phoenix is proceeding beyond expectations, he reported. Our sleeper ships have activated at all primary targets. The hegemony's supposedly unbreakable encryption codes are falling like dominoes. Martinez allowed herself a small smile. For decades, humanity had played the role of technological primitives, all while their quantum-enhanced AIs had been systematically dismantling the hegemony's security protocols. Every patronizing inspection of Earth's primitive facilities had only served to reinforce their deception. And our allies? She asked, bringing up footage from various rebel worlds. The Andromedans have already seized control of 3 major trading hubs, Patel replied. The Silicon Collective is disrupting hegemony communications across the Outer Rim. Even the Proxima resistance, which the hegemony thought they crushed centuries ago, is rising up. A new alert flashed across the main screen. Ambassador Washington's quantum signature appeared, requesting immediate communication. Martinez activated the secure channel. Regina, I trust you're safely away from Nova Centrum. The ambassador's hologram nodded. Aboard the Nightingale now. You should have seen their faces, Isabella. Centuries of superiority crumbling in minutes. She paused, her expression growing serious. But we've stirred up a hornet's nest. High Chancellor Zarax managed to send out a priority alert before we shut down their quantum relays. Let them run, Martinez said, watching as another cluster of red dots turned green on the strategic display. Every move they make only spreads our quantum network further. Speaking of which, she nodded to Patel, who activated the separate display. The image showed what appeared to be a standard hegemony cargo vessel. As they watched, its hull seemed to shimmer, revealing the true technology hidden beneath decades of careful camouflage. Quantum resonators, more advanced than anything the hegemony had ever imagined, pulsed with otherworldly energy. The Trojan fleet is fully operational, Patel reported. Every primitive trading vessel we've sent into their space over the last 30 years is now revealing its true nature. The hegemony's own trading networks have become their prison. Martinez touched a control, bringing up footage from across hegemony space. Supposedly backward human ships were transforming into advanced warfare platforms, their crews of simple traders revealing themselves as highly trained military operators. The look of shock on hegemony officials' faces as their primitive human servants suddenly seized control of critical facilities was deeply satisfying. Signal from the Artemis. An operator called out. Captain Yuki Tanaka reports the hegemony's 7th Fleet is attempting to regroup at Proxima Station. Martinez's smile widened. Spring the trap. On multiple screens, they watched as the mighty hegemony warships discovered that their advanced engines were useless against humanity's quantum interference fields. The supposedly invincible fleet hung helpless in space as transformed human vessels emerged from hiding. Message from Captain Tanaka, the operator announced. She says, The primitive humans send their regards. The command center erupted in carefully controlled celebration. Decades of preparation, of swallowing pride and playing the fool were finally bearing fruit. But Martinez knew this was just the beginning. "Ambassador," she said, turning back to Washington's hologram, "initiate Phase 3. It's time to show them our real capabilities." "With pleasure," Regina replied. "The quantum fold network is ready. The hegemony is about to learn that their understanding of space-time is as primitive as they thought we were." As the hologram faded, Martinez looked at the strategic display again. Across the galaxy, species that had suffered under hegemony rule for centuries were rising up, armed with human quantum technology that defied the established laws of physics. The hegemony's carefully maintained hierarchy was collapsing, and in its place, something new was emerging. "Send word to all Allied forces," she commanded. "Operation Phoenix is entering its final phase. The age of the hegemony is over. The age of humanity has begun." In the depths of space, thousands of quantum engines pulsed in perfect synchronization, tearing holes in reality itself. The hegemony had called humans primitive. They were about to learn just how wrong they had been. The revolution that would reshape the galaxy was fully underway, and humanity was holding all the cards. Admiral Viktor Petrov stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, Earth's most advanced warship, watching as his fleet emerged from quantum space around the hegemony's primary military installation, Fortress Invictus. The massive space station had been considered impregnable for over 1,000 years. That was about to change. "Battle stations," he commanded, his deep voice carrying across the bridge. "Execute Operation Thunderstrike." The fortress's outer defenses came alive, energy weapons charging as they detected the human fleet. But something was wrong. Their sensors couldn't lock onto the Earth ships. What should have been clear targets appeared as quantum ghosts, simultaneously in multiple locations. "Sir," his tactical officer, Lieutenant Kurapatal, reported with barely contained excitement, "the quantum confusion field is working perfectly. Their targeting systems are completely blind." Petrov nodded, watching as panic spread through the hegemony forces. Their much-vaunted superior technology was useless against weapons they didn't even know could exist. "Launch the Wraith squadrons." From the belly of each Earth warship, sleek fighters emerged. These weren't the crude chemical rockets the hegemony thought humans relied on. They were quantum-shifted attack craft, capable of phasing through traditional shields as if they weren't there. "Message from Fortress Command," Communications Officer Wang announced. "They're demanding our surrender." He paused, listening. "They're saying we're violating at least 15 different hegemony laws by being here." A chorus of contained laughter rippled across the bridge. After decades of being lectured about laws designed to keep humanity down, there was something deeply satisfying about this moment. "Send them our response," Petrov ordered. Code phrase: "Primitive no more." Across the battlefield, human ships began their transformation. Quantum fields shifted, revealing weapons that the hegemony had deemed impossible. The supposed transport vessels in his fleet shed their disguises, becoming sleek warships that had been hiding in plain sight for years. "Strike teams are in position," Kira reported. "Operation Ghost is ready." Petrov allowed himself a small smile. While the hegemony focused on his fleet, hundreds of quantum-shifted infiltration teams were already inside their fortress. Teams that had been quietly inserted over the years, disguised as maintenance workers, traders, even cleaning staff. All of them now activated their true capabilities. "Begin the assault," he ordered. The space around Fortress Invictus erupted in chaos. Human fighters phased through supposedly impenetrable shields, their quantum weapons bypassing defenses designed to stop energy and kinetic attacks. Inside the fortress, infiltration teams seized critical systems, using backdoors they'd spent years creating. "Sir," Wang called out, "we're receiving surrender signals from multiple sectors of the fortress. The quantum disruption fields are working. Their internal communications are in chaos." On the tactical display, Petrov watched as section after section of the massive fortress fell under human control. The hegemony forces, trained to rely on their advanced technology, found themselves helpless when that technology failed them. Message from Commander Martinez, Wang announced. Similar operations are succeeding across hegemony space. The Andromedans have taken control of the Cerberus Nexus, and the Silicon Collective has captured the primary data cores at Vector Prime. Petrov nodded with satisfaction. Humanity's allies, armed with Earth's quantum technology, were striking simultaneously across the galaxy. The hegemony's carefully maintained power structure was crumbling. Fortress Command is requesting terms, Kira reported, unable to keep the triumph from her voice. Send them the standard response, Petrov ordered. Full surrender, immediate release of all subjected species representatives, and complete access to their technological database. He paused, then added, remind them that resistance will result in a demonstration of just how primitive our quantum weapons can be. As his words were transmitted, the last pockets of resistance within the fortress began to surrender. The mighty Fortress Invictus, symbol of hegemony power for a millennium, had fallen to the primitive humans in less than an hour. Signal from Earth Command, Wang announced. Operation Phoenix is proceeding ahead of schedule. We're to prepare for Phase 4. Petrov turned to face his crew, pride evident in his bearing. The hegemony thought they were dealing with primitives playing with toys, he said. Instead, they've awakened a giant that's been quietly preparing for this day for decades. Send word to all fleet elements. The real war has just begun. Around Fortress Invictus, more Earth ships emerged from quantum space, their true forms finally revealed to the galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity had been planning this day for generations, and they weren't going to stop until the entire corrupt system was torn down. The age of hegemony superiority was over. The era of human ascendance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The grand observation deck of Liberation Station hummed with activity as representatives from 24 formerly oppressed species gathered to witness history. Commander Isabella Martinez stood before the massive quantum display, watching as green indicators of liberation spread across the galactic map like wildfire. The hegemony never understood. She addressed the assembled allies, her voice carrying across the chamber. They thought keeping species isolated would prevent unity. Instead, they gave us all a common enemy. Ambassador T. Lara of the Silicon Collective, her crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns, stepped forward. When humans first contacted us in secret 5 years ago, we thought it was another hegemony trick. How wrong we were. The display shifted, showing real-time footage of joint human-alien forces dismantling hegemony power structures across multiple sectors. What had started as humanity's revenge had become a full-scale galactic revolution. Update from Admiral Petrov's fleet. Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported from his station. The hegemony's last hope defense line has collapsed. Their supposedly impregnable quantum barriers were useless against our phase shift technology. Martinez nodded, remembering how the hegemony had mocked Earth's primitive understanding of quantum mechanics. They never realized that humanity had discovered principles of physics that their rigid hierarchical thinking couldn't conceive. The Andromedan Liberation Front reports success in the Carina sector, another officer called out. They're using our quantum replication technology to bypass hegemony blockades. Food and supplies are reaching the starving colonies. Tellura's crystalline surface rippled with emotion. For millennia, the hegemony claimed they alone could maintain galactic stability. Yet in mere weeks, your primitive species has done more for actual peace than they managed in centuries. The station shuddered slightly as another quantum tunnel opened nearby. A massive fleet of refugee ships emerged, escorted by human and allied vessels. The hegemony's carefully maintained barriers between species were literally dissolving. Message from the Proxima Resistance, Jackson announced. They've secured the hegemony's primary clone production facility. The slave armies are being freed as we speak. Martinez touched a control, bringing up footage from across liberated space. Former hegemony subjects were discovering that the technological gaps that had kept them subordinate were largely artificial. Human quantum tech was proving remarkably adaptable to different species' needs. "We have movement at the hegemony capital," a sensor operator reported urgently. "Their remaining loyal fleets are gathering for what appears to be a final stand." "Let them come," Tilara said, her crystalline voice carrying unexpected steel. "They'll find that their former servants have learned much from our human allies." Martinez smiled, remembering the hegemony's dismissive attitude toward cross-species cooperation. They had been so convinced of their superiority that they never imagined their victims would unite against them. "Signal from Earth Command," Jackson reported. "The quantum fold network is now complete. We can deploy anywhere in hegemony space instantly." The assembled representatives watched as human ships demonstrated their true capabilities, appearing and disappearing across vast distances without using the hegemony's carefully controlled jump gates. The physics the hegemony had declared impossible was reshaping the galaxy. The hegemony built their power on artificial scarcity and enforced inequality. Martins addressed the gathered allies. They claimed their rule was necessary for technological progress. "But look around you. When species work together freely, we advance further than their controlled evolution ever allowed." On the main display, another hegemony fortress fell to the combined forces. This time, it was former slave soldiers leading the charge, armed with human quantum weapons and backed by Silicon Collective cyber warfare suites. "We're detecting massive energy signatures from the capital," a technician reported. "The hegemony appears to be preparing their doomsday weapons." Tilara's crystalline form pulsed with concern. "They would rather destroy everything than admit their time is over." Martinez's expression hardened. "That's why we prepared for this. Initiate Operation Omega. Show them humanity's final gift to the galaxy." Across human and allied ships, new systems powered up. The hegemony had thought they understood the limits of quantum manipulation. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "All allied forces, prepare for Phase 5, Martinez commanded. "The hegemony's reign ends today. Tomorrow, we build something better, together." As Liberation Station's quantum cores hummed with power, representatives of formerly oppressed species stood united, watching humanity lead the charge toward a future the hegemony had never imagined possible. The revolution wasn't just succeeding, it was transforming the very fabric of galactic society. The final battle loomed, but its outcome was already certain. The age of enforced hierarchy was ending, replaced by an era of cooperation and shared advancement. And it had all started because the hegemony had underestimated one primitive species too many. The crystalline spires of Nova Centrum looked very different now. Where once they had symbolized hegemony dominance, they now bore the scars of revolution. High Chancellor Zarak stood in his formerly grand chamber, watching as combined human-alien forces systematically dismantled the last vestiges of his power. "How?" he whispered, scales shifting to the pale gray of defeat. "How did we not see this coming?" "Because you saw what you wanted to see," Ambassador Regina Washington replied, entering the chamber with Commander Martinez and Admiral Petrov at her side. Representatives from dozens of liberated species followed, including Tilara of the Silicon Collective and the newly freed Andromedan High Command. "Your greatest weakness," Martinez continued, "was believing your own propaganda. You were so convinced of your superiority that you never questioned why we accepted your insults so easily." The quantum display activated, showing the full scope of the hegemony's collapse. Their mighty fleets lay powerless, their fortress worlds had fallen, and their carefully maintained barriers between species had crumbled. "You called us primitive," Petrov added, his voice carrying across the chamber. "While we built technologies you thought impossible, you mocked our simple understanding of quantum mechanics, never realizing we had transcended your limited theories generations ago." Hilara's crystalline form pulsed with justice fulfilled. "You kept us divided, claiming it was for our own good. Instead, you created a galaxy full of allies waiting for someone to show them a better way. Zerex's scales rippled with confusion. But the laws of physics, the theoretical limitations, were exactly that. Theoretical, Martinez interrupted. Your rigid hierarchy didn't just control species, it controlled thought itself. You were so busy maintaining your power that you stopped advancing. The chamber's quantum field shifted, and suddenly they were surrounded by holographic displays showing scenes from across the liberated galaxy. Former slave species working alongside their liberators. Ancient enemies coming together to rebuild. Technology being freely shared rather than hoarded. Today isn't just about humanity's revenge, Washington declared. It's about breaking the system that stifled the potential of countless species. The Galactic Federation we're establishing will be built on cooperation, not dominance. Zerex watched as his last defensive systems were systematically deactivated by quantum protocols he couldn't even detect. And what happens to us? He asked, mandibles clicking nervously. That depends on you, Martins replied. Unlike the hegemony, we don't believe in permanent hierarchies. Even former oppressors can earn their place in the new order, if they're willing to change. The chamber's massive doors opened, revealing more delegates from across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millennia now stood together, united by humanity's example. The quantum fold network is complete, Admiral Petrov reported. All sectors are linked. The new galactic transportation system is operational. No more controlled jump gates, Washington explained to the assembled beings. No more artificial barriers between worlds. Free movement, free trade, free exchange of ideas. Impossible, Zarax protested weakly. The chaos is exactly what you feared, Tilera interjected. Because chaos means change, and change threatens power. But look around you. Species are choosing cooperation over conflict, unity over division. Martinez stepped forward, addressing not just the chamber, but the billions watching across liberated space. The age of the hegemony is over, but this isn't just humanity's victory. It belongs to every species that dared to dream of something better. On countless worlds, beings of all forms and origins watched as the last hegemony stronghold transformed. The quantum technology that humans had developed in secret was already reshaping society. Distance was becoming meaningless. Scarcity was becoming optional. Ancient limitations were falling away. To all watching, Washington announced, her voice carrying across the quantum network, welcome to the dawn of a new era. The Galactic Federation is born not from conquest, but from cooperation. Not from superiority, but from shared strength. As the former High Chancellor was led away, Martinez turned to the assembled representatives. The hegemony thought they were containing a primitive species, she said. Instead, they inspired a revolution that will reshape the galaxy for millennia to come. Outside the chamber, the three sons of Nova Centrum sat on the last day of the old order. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but they would face them together. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. The primitive species had become the architects of a new age, and the galaxy would never be the same.